America's mom.
Oh, yes.
Sherronna Bishop.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Well, Mer, thank you so much for inviting me. And I will say I drove 16 hours today to be here with you guys. So thank you for inviting me. It was important to be here. And I was having a bit of a freak out because I was like, I literally got dressed in my car, did my makeup, hair, did all the things in my car while I'm driving. People were wondering what was going on. I was so grateful to be here and talk with you guys. I appreciate how you started out today. Well, thank you. All done in the car while driving 80, sometimes 90. I think that the white liberal Karen has done a lot of damage to this country, and especially to this cause that we're going to talk about a little bit today. I also understand, I kind of wanted to leave a little bit of ability for you guys to ask any questions, or if there's topics you wanted me to talk about. There's not a lot that I can't discuss, and so I'm really happy to do that. I'm just going to share with you a little bit about what we've been up to, things that are happening in Colorado. I'll give some clarity to some of the bills that you guys discussed about too, because that really why I got involved in politics to begin with was just simply because my kids were not being challenged in the public school system. And the low expectations that were happening with my kids that were preventing them from being who they needed to be. This is before sexualizing of kids started. This was 2017, and just kids couldn't read or write or do math. We didn't have this extra component that really hit when Polis took office within 90 days. If you remember, he signed comprehensive sex education into law. And a lot of people thought I was crazy because they're like, Sherronna, we need to make sure that everybody knows what they need to know. And I'm like, this is not that. This is a gateway, this is a doorway that's going to allow to exactly where we're at right now in 2023, where we have to actually stand up and worry that people are going to disagree that we should not mutilate children. It's insane what has happened. And I think being a mom and having kids and seeing the natural inclination of humanity, when you have little humans and you're watching how you have to teach them to be good. You have to teach them to do right. They already know to be bad. They already know to be naughty, and you watch the progression of their naughtiness, and that's why you understand when you see a bad bill coming, you see that doorway that's being opened, and you see the progression of where this is going to take everybody. And the difficult thing is we're such nice people, by and large. We are decent. We do have manners. In my area, they don't think I have manners, but I have good reason for not having manners anymore. I don't have any anymore. I give no cares, AF at all. And because they came after my kids, because these policies personally hurt my children. And even at the time, I didn't have the courage to stand up against what was happening. I didn't speak out boldly at that time. And it really lit a fire later on, though. Comprehensive sex education has been the most destructive policy that entered into my family, into my home. And my daughter was, just a regular young girl, very impressionable. I had no idea what that school was teaching. They received opt-out forms, and the teacher said, if you don't think you need that, just toss it in the recycle bin. This was in 2019. So I never knew about it. I never knew what was happening at the Newcastle High School. My daughter watched a video, a reenactment of rape. She learned every type of everything that there is out there under the sun, without my permission. I never knew that they learned any of this until I saw her Googling on her phone. And I hit the history button because I thought I saw something, Plan B. And I was like, why would she need to look up Plan B? They do hypersexual games in the class where boys and girls are partnered up and paired up, and they're doing, the only thing that matters really is consent. So did you say no, right? That's all that matters in this whole world in Colorado with children. Did you say no? And most children, or most impressionable young children, whether they be male or female, don't even half the time know exactly what's happening to say no, because it's a progression. And that's essentially what ended up happening with us. And so, again, this hasn't been something we've been too public about till recently, because my daughter's grown and married and expecting a baby, and she's okay with us sharing the story now. The boys she was paired up with, it became a very hypersexual situation. They were doing consent games, and this is what goes on right now. consent games in the classroom. And you'll get as close as you can until someone says no. Well, no boy is really saying no because, it's fun, it's funny, right? So you get as close as you can, and they're supposed to say no when they feel discomfort, and it just leads one thing after another after the other. Multiple girls were assaulted in that class through this sexual play that they were doing in the classroom, and then outside of the classroom, it went to a whole new level. Those situations, when it came down to it, my daughter had never said no. She didn't say the words no. So after everything cleared, she was unwilling to press charges because she had been taught emphatically in the class, in order for it to be wrong or illegal, you have to have said no. And she never did. But she was too young to give consent, and she really didn't understand what was happening. So that was really the final launch for me. Since I wasn't allowed to kill the young man that this happened with, I had to go into activism and try to find a place to put all of this in and watch out for the vulnerabilities where policy is allowing our children to be really groomed. They're being groomed to be victims, to be vulnerable to people that don't love them and care about them the way their parents do. The bill that you asked if in Colorado, what age is it that they can begin to transition? Well, 12 years old and up, you do not need parental consent for psychiatric care, for mental health care, for any type of medical care whatsoever. Your school counselors now have the ability to make pharmaceutical decisions. They can write scripts for your children, and they decide alone whether or not you, the parent, gets to know about this.
So they give them drugs at school?
Well, so like Roaring Fork School District right now, Lubbock Springs, Carbondale, Basalt.
Yep.
Next year, there's a full implementation of medical support in the school. Doctors, nurse,
Yep.
psychiatrists.
Are they doing this under the guise of people who are poor and they need to get their medicine somewhere?
They use that for virtues. They used to use that for virtue signaling. Yes, they're too poor. The parents need to work. Right? Poverty, poverty, poverty. I was poor. We managed. But right now, it's absolutely. If I had a board to draw on, I would draw a mental health piggy bank, and all of the money sits in there, and it funnels out to all of these pet projects throughout the state and throughout the schools. Now, remember, ESSER funds. I want to go back to COVID for a minute because COVID has a lot to do with still what's happening to us now. ESSER funds were money that was given to schools in different phases based on compliance by the school to implement things like masks, social distancing, stay-at-home plans, the computer things they did, all that stuff. ESSER funds were granted based on schools saying they would be compliant, write up the plan, submit it to the district, and then then they would get their money, okay? Or to the state, and then they would get their money. ESSER Funds 3 was based on social emotional learning and the trans ideology. Implementing pronouns, implementing the gingerbread man, the genderbread man. You asked also how young is this impacting? 3-year-olds and up. So in our area also, Pastor Jim from one of the Christian churches there also has a private school. It's a private school. The state came in because he was receiving some state grants, and because of that, he was required to teach the gender ideology bread man to 3-year-olds and up.
Did he reject the funds?
He did, and he rejected everything. They sued him, and then somebody stepped in and paid their entire school debt. So now they're not subject to needing money from the state whatsoever, which they never should have taken in the first place. And let that be a lesson. If you take the money, you're subject to what you said you would comply with. And that's what we're all learning.
They're no longer tax exempt either.
I don't think so. Nope, they're not. You're exactly right. They incorporated. Yep, for protection.
That's just step one.
Yeah.
The rubrics and the grants come from Washington to the state.
Mhm.
So there's a whole series of grants that come through from the states. The state is having now to submit to their local U.S.
Exactly.
Department of Education all of this BX.
And truly, we don't even know, what programs, we don't actually know unless you know exactly what what deals have been brokered there. So if you're doing the social emotional learning art class with the gender ideology attached to it after school, but you think you're sending your kid to an after school art program like Erin Lee experienced with her daughter. She's a mother in Fort Collins who, a group of girls ended up going to this after school program. It was only 2 hours. It was 2 hours that changed the trajectory of these 4 girls' lives. They all tried to commit suicide. They all experienced unbelievable mental and spiritual stress afterwards. And so when we're talking about this trans ideology thing, I think it's really important to recognize there's a spiritual aspect here. This is so unnatural to think that we would actually go in and operate and remove body parts from children in order to accommodate a mental breakdown or a mental need that they're having. It's so unnatural and unusual, and we just wouldn't really do that in real life. When I had a friend who was an emergency room nurse, and she had a man, probably over in his 70s, was having a total mental break, and he had severed his appendage, right? And they knew that he was having a mental break because he severed it. Why would we not think the same thing is happening with young children who are saying they don't want their body parts? But that's not going to be that's not what's going to be dealt with, because there is an agenda. Someone said it earlier, you guys are the sanctuary state. You and Maine also has signed the same bill as a sanctuary state for medical providers to come and perform all of these operations, surgeries, whatever it is, without any recourse at all. So say they live in Texas, where you can't do any of these surgeries there. They fly here to Colorado with the patient. They've worked out some kind of deal. They perform the surgery here. There is zero liability for that doctor. And that's insane. And I think we all know that. We all know this is crazy. That's why we're here. And I think for me, too, this whole journey, I've just really found incredible help from the most unlikely of places. And I can't help but recognize where I'm at tonight, and I'm asking for your help. And I don't know how many of you have children or what your lives have been like before now, but we recognize that the most important thing we can do is preserve the innocence of our kids as long as possible. The purposeful trauma of these children is creating a generation that will not fight for this country. They will be so embattled with their own turmoil. They will never stand up for this nation. They will never be able to secure this nation for us. Everything that goes against traditional family, everything that has secured a nation and built it up, is under attack. And I can't even tell you how much I appreciate your support and your understanding of this, that this is the battle that we have to have. It's the fight we have to have. We have to secure the family. And I think part of that also speaks to, we're all watching this happen with kids. We know teenagers get a little crazy. We understand that. I was one once. I just had to graduate recently, my daughter, and then my son just graduated. And being able to go out into the world and be a member of society and participate in society, we can't do that if we're fostering these mental health conditions and we're actually giving it credit. We're actually saying that a man can become a woman and a woman can become a man. We will have a society that cannot function. They can't produce anything. And our country, if you ever, I brought a book actually. Do you mind handing that to me? I want to share this with you guys. This is a really great read. Daryl Brooks just put this out not too long ago, just a couple months ago. It's a really short, concise read of the breakdown of what we're seeing happen. Okay, so the march towards Marxism. And you would never think, I really didn't understand how the correlation between trans ideology, it's specifically trans ideology, because this is just chaos. It's absolute destruction. It's not something you can come back from. I interviewed Matt Ray, who is she's a girl who tried to transition to a man. We stay in touch constantly now. And by the time she really realized what a grave mistake she had made, her life will never, ever be the same. And she can't even do anything except her everyday physical care. She can't be a patriot for freedom. She can't run for office right now. She can't worry about protecting kids in her valley. She can't even worry about taking care of her own family, because it's all about this right now and getting this back to good somehow, or at least livable. And that is the point. The point is to make you so self-consumed you don't do anything else. And you're reliant on the government. One thing that she pointed out to me was that she couldn't get a car loan. A $5,000 car loan, but she was able to get a loan for $10,000 through Care Credit to have her breasts removed. She couldn't get a car loan, right, that would take her to work and get her where she needs to be, but she could get her breasts removed, no problem. $10,000. And I just thought that's really incredible. You create a whole new generation of people who are solely dependent upon government for everything, because she cannot function. And she's just the face of many, hundred thousands, if we, I don't know where we're at yet, numbers wise. I don't think anybody does know. And so vocal.
I see her on Twitter a lot.
Yeah, she's very vocal about what's happening. She's testifying at other school boards. She's joined up with, it's Mindy, right? Gays Against Groomers, yeah, but I can't think of the girl's name. But yeah, she's partnered up with them, and they're getting out the word that this is This isn't normal, natural, or neutral. We don't support this. We're not supporting this. We don't do this to people, and we don't allow people to do this to themselves. So the march towards Marxism, again, it is about decimating the family unit. You know, I think about all of our lives don't all turn out the way that we think that we want them to, or the way that we think they should. But by and large, we have a mom and dad that love us, or we have aunts and uncles that love us. You have people in your life that you invest in, kids that you've grown up with, that you take care of. I know this. I see you all the time with all your family. We have these family structures. There are blood, there are people, and that matters. The terms of what family is has shifted and changed so that we wouldn't feel that dependency on one another, and we wouldn't cling to one another. And I really want to challenge that. I've been in that camp thinking family is who you find. No, it's actually not. It is actually really who God gave you, and who He brought together in your little circle. And love them or hate them, they're going to be there for you. They're going to have your back, and that needs to be nurtured. I want to really, I want to be emphatic about that with you guys. It's something I've been talking a lot about because I didn't think it was important, and I didn't give it the credit that it needed to, and that really did. It is affecting my family. It is affecting our lives, and it is definitely affecting our generations to come. And so let me give you an example of that. We're sixth generation Coloradans. My grandparents, my great-great-great-grandparents settled in Crawford, Colorado, over by Paonia, and we still have all of our family land over there. I didn't know anything about our family. I didn't know anything about our history. Our family were, dislodged in this whole idea of family is who you choose, not who you're born with. I just don't necessarily believe that anymore because of these reasons. The land matters. Your family legacy, it matters. Who you are, your name, it matters. You're in this book, and it's you, and it's all about all the things that God intended for you, what He wanted for you, your family, everything, and it all has purpose, it all has meaning, and it all has significance. It's what prepared you to be sitting here today thinking about how you're going to fight on behalf of the most innocent among us. Isn't that incredible? And so much of the time, we kind of brush that aside and think, I'll just move forward creating my own thing. I think that it's incredibly significant to grab a hold of whatever legacy your family has started and move it forward. Take back the ground is essentially what I'm saying. Being exposed to my grandparents' property again and really looking at what they're 87 and 84. And they're looking at the end of their lives and they're going, who is going to take up this mantle and keep this legacy going? They worked their entire lives for this. And it just hit me one day, that's what we're doing here. This place is worth saving. My grandparents' property is worth saving. If you're here in this state, it's because you're here to help save it. It's worth saving. Not only is it a high place spiritually, Colorado. Colorado has like tons of history on the spirituality of this state. And there's people talk about literally a spiritual battle that wages over this state. I've had so many people talk about that. Is anybody kind of familiar with that? Colorado Springs especially. Some really fascinating stuff that's been put out about Colorado specifically and where you guys are at. In addition to that, the land is rich with mineral resources. Jared Polis knows that. He wrote a book about it, Hidden Gems. He knows how valuable this state is, how rich it is, how wealthy this state is. And he wants it for him and his political elites. He doesn't want any of us here. Remember, in the first 90 days, he got rid of coal. He got rid of oil and gas. He got rid of parents effectively through comprehensive sex education and moved that dial, all the way down. After that, of course, we've seen all the land grabs. We've seen what's happening with our schools. We're watching what's happening now with Tabor, with your money, and all of the play on words, all the things that they try to change to accommodate and fit this narrative that they're pushing forward. The end game is communism in this state. I've been spending so much time in California recently because they're tired of living under communism. They're done with it. They're tired of it. They want to cast off those chains. They were nice people for way too long. When they saw these things happening that we're seeing happen right now, they didn't do anything about it. They didn't really use their voices until it was too late, right? Until they were literally, doing what we're about to do here with all these health clinics, giving their children shots they didn't know about, giving them procedures they didn't know about, having children removed from their parents because they wouldn't affirm whatever it is that the child wanted to do. Those realities are coming here to Colorado. Polis is still in office. He's not going anywhere. And if he has another 2 terms like he just did here, I can't imagine what Colorado's going to look like. The people in California that I've met with, they're from every walk of life, because we're no longer allowing the political left and right to separate us anymore. And that's what I mean when I say, own the land. Take back your land. You have authority here because this is your home, and you have to take it back. There's nobody coming to save you. I can tell you that. There is no military that's in charge. Trump is not coming to save us. Like all that stuff you've heard, sit back and watch the show and eat your popcorn. I am telling you firsthand, that is a lie. It's a lie.
This election proves that, for sure.
Biden absolutely is in the White House.
No, I meant the 2020 year. We all thought that there was going to be this red wave. And there wasn't, because they had the money, they had the organization.
China got the last button. Russia wasn't quite fast enough. China got the last button. These outside people that literally are infiltrating our elections, they know who they want in the White House. They do. And love it or hate it, want to believe it or not, I'm telling you that's exactly what happened. We are set on an algorithm, and the only thing that we're going to be able to do moving forward, so I want to kind of give a plan just a little bit so it's not completely sad and depressing. I really am a mom, right? It's all the bad news and all the bad things. But what I want to encourage you to, and what I've watched happen, what I've witnessed happen, is one, stay in the fight, no matter what. No matter what. I didn't know what was going to happen a couple years ago. I didn't know if I'd still have any friends left. I didn't know if anybody would even want to know, even like be brave enough to talk to me, and not be worried that their house was going to be raided or their phones tapped or whatever. And there is something to be said with staying with the game.
Did that happen to you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, in November of 2021, my home was raided by the FBI. I had been working on elections in Mesa County and with Tina Peters, and she did the before image and the after image of the Dominion voting machines. Yeah. Which, by the way, a collaborating report called the Halderman Report, which was actually funded by Democrats. And Halderman is a Democrat leftist professor from some prestigious university. He actually wrote his report that shows all the same things we have in Tina's report 1, 2, and 3.
Is that the one that just came out of Arizona?
Yeah, well, it didn't come out of Arizona, but they're talking about it a lot because Senator Borelli just did a resolution, and he's calling on the states and legislators to start supporting President Trump's executive order from 2017 and Homeland Security's order that said you cannot allow any of our, critical infrastructure to be created by any of our adversaries. So much of what you're seeing happen in this country is from China. They're not teaching their boys to put high heels and dresses on.
No.
Oh no.
Their TikTok is very different from our TikTok.
Very different, and I mean, but more than that, like their interactions, what they esteem. I mean, they give us all the crap. We're literally eating all their junk food while they put the meat, and the grass-fed butter in their kids. And our kids they're not going to be ready for war, you guys, and it's on purpose. They're not going to be able to defend it. And the only other thing I wanted to say about that also, so yeah, they raided my house, they did all their crap, and they still keep going. We don't really care anymore.
So did they take things from your house?
They did. They took all of my gadgets, our computers, thumb drives, all our kids' pictures. No. Nope, they still have an active investigation going. They were in my social media for a couple years. I finally got a notification saying they had closed their investigation in my social media, so they don't read it anymore, is what they're saying. And they saw my phone tapped. Mickey Willis, who's actually going to be joining us in Aspen, I was on the phone with him.
Thursday?
On Thursday, yeah, the premiere of Plandemic 3 in Aspen. Mickey Willis, we were talking, and all of a sudden, all the interference starts, all the nonsense starts. I'm like, Mickey, your phone's tapped. He's like, I thought it was. So it's kind of a fun game. See what they're doing. They have nothing better to do. They don't investigate child trafficking or crimes against children anymore. So.
How did they get those warrants?
They said I was. The term they use, and they'll use for any one of you in this room if you get too naughty, is. Was it called conspiracy to commit wire fraud? Okay, that's their blanket. You guys have heard of that? Conspiracy to commit wire fraud is the blanket term that's used, and just about any good judge will sign off on it because, okay, they suspect there's a crime. There probably is. They know better than I do. They sign off on it, and they can come and do whatever they want to you.
Were you ever charged with anything?
Nope. I never will be. We never did anything wrong, but what they wanted us to stop talking about what we were doing. Yeah. And I mean, think about it. In November of 2021, we flipped 13 school boards, well, 12, and then a 13 from Garfield County came after we got some of these people to resign. But school boards across the state, they never saw it coming. These boards went to parent control, and things have not been the same since. The teachers union was so mad, they didn't have the resources to fight on all those fronts. I mean, this state is on fire. You guys are on fire. And don't forget that. Like, I mean, the people are fighting here. They have pulled off unbelievable things you would not even believe what people have been able to do in every single county. All 64 counties working together in this state at one time, over and over and over. You guys are going to turn things around here as long as you stay loud and you stay vocal, and the most unlikely people stepping up and saying, we've had enough of this. We don't support this. 1 + 1 doesn't equal your 2. You know what I'm saying? One does not equal the other. We support the innocence of kids. We support personal sovereignty, self-determination, medical freedom. We do not want the government in our affairs anymore. So if there's nothing else that's really come out of all of this, it's really been the great understanding, the great principle that government at its very best is but a necessary evil. We need to hold on to that truth. It is true. I see people making friends. I don't know if Solomon will love this or not, but I see people making friends with elected officials all the time. I do not make friends with elected officials anymore. And once they become elected officials, I'm like, oh, never mind. We're in a different game now. I'm here to hold you accountable now. And I've seen what happens with that. I've seen what happens when elected officials are not put in their proper place. There's a season, if you run for office, you shouldn't have a ton of friends. You should feel very lonely and like everybody's watching you. And then find some good people like Solomon to help you. But I just really think that it's extremely important because government will fail. It's meant to fail. We are the only ones who are going to secure our own freedom, our own children, our own families, our own land. It's ours. It belongs to us. Whatever you have, it belongs to you. No one else, and no one else is entitled to it, and that includes our children. No one is entitled to my child, and no one ever had the right to do anything beyond teach them how to read, how to write, how to do math, and that's it. All of this other stuff is such an overstep. And those of you who have position, who have title, those of you who have influence and authority, you need to use it to start these really important conversations. So many people don't even think this is actually happening in this state. Even though 16 schools have closed in Jefferson County, nobody stops and goes, why did that happen? Because parents figured out what was going on. The kids weren't even getting an education, so you couldn't even say.
I don't have kids, so I don't know what's going on out there, I guess. But are those kids now in homeschool? Are they in private school? Where are all these kids if the schools are closing?
Pretty good mix. Yeah, charter schools, the private schools. There's been tons of people stepping up to give grants to kids to get them into the private schools. Yes.
Public schools?
No, they're way better. They have
Transparency or?
massive transparency, required parent hours. Typically their structure, their rigor is just so much more significant. So for example, my kids were at a charter school initially. They had to wear uniforms and whatever, but my kid was in 6th grade doing 9th grade work. When we moved into the public school, he's in 7th grade doing 3rd grade work. Rigor in a charter school because they have a board of parents or investors from the community who want return. They want a return on their investment. So it is usually public and private contributions in a charter school. And once they write that charter, like there's no leniency. It's not like a public school. And to be really clear too, that was one of the big things that teachers have told me here in Colorado. They were always parent-centric until 2020, until COVID. And then all of a sudden an attitude came in with these ESSER funds and the parents no longer mattered. I mean, in our little tiny town, we had police standing at the door to prevent 5-year-olds from coming into the school because they weren't wearing a mask. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it got insane, and that had never happened before. And there's really nothing to prevent it from ever happening again except you. You're it. You are the cavalry. You're the ones that we need. I just encourage you to take back your ground.
So who are you in terms of an organization and what do you have planned?
Sure. So here is the plan. So I run America's Mom. It's a conservative platform. I work for Mike Lindell and the Lindell Legal Offense Fund. And then I run around helping counties get their crap together. So what I mean by that is a plan, like you said. So the only thing we see really moving forward, we've used the law. We have well over 140 lawsuits that we've put out across the country. Do you think any of them has brought that great of a return? No. So the judicial, it's not going to happen through the judicial. Legislatively, we have secretaries of state following Jenna Griswold's example and creating new laws out of the air. So for example, we've been working in California. The Secretary of State caught wind. They're allowed to do paper ballot hand counts. It's not written in their constitution anywhere or their law that they can't. She caught wind and immediately has implemented Jenna's rule that 1,000 or more people in your community, you have to use the machines. It's a rule she just made up literally like a couple weeks ago, because we have counties all across California preparing to do a paper ballot hand count only. So here is this is the main attack plan we have. We have 3,143 counties across the country. If we are going to have a fair election, I mean, your local elections are the most important. So county level is where we want to work at. Your Denver clerk really prides himself on being amazing, right? And your new clerk there, she wants to be amazing too. If we keep using technology to count our votes, we will come out the losers. Anyone who wants freedom, personal liberty, self-determination, just leave me the hell alone. If you want that, you can't use machines anymore, because our government doesn't want that. They've proven it here in Colorado for the last 3 years, and Tabor has really been the last straw to show you. They don't give two cares what you think. They're not on your liberty agenda. They're moving this country towards communism. And if we don't intercede now and we disrupt and interfere with what they're doing, we literally will not have a say. This was a banana republic, I believe, already. But I believe in us. I believe in we the people. So every county has a responsibility to work with their local clerk, and there's two tools that have just come out. One is Senator Sonny Borrelli's resolution. When President Trump and the Homeland Security wrote that critical infrastructure includes your voting machines, and you can't have anything in critical infrastructure that's made from a country that's our adversary. China is our biggest adversary. They hate us. They actually, I don't know that they hate us so much as they're super jealous of us and what we've been able to do. They are, right? They have more people, they have more force, they do these things they do to their people to prepare them for athletics and education, and it's just crazy. But our love of life is why we are so excellent, why America is so exceptional. We get to choose what we do and pursue it on our own. And we love it, and it thrives. They don't do that. So they lose, right? Always compared to us. They're always on the back burner. They hate that. So they make our voting machines. 26 states have Dominion voting machines. And I think one of the biggest answers or responses rather to Wayne Williams and his efforts in 2013 to bring Dominion voting machines here to Colorado, that was one thing, okay, fine. But they were all made, we've seen all the packing orders, or the receipts, excuse me, and the packing slips. Those machines were made in China. As soon as they got here to Colorado, Wayne Williams ordered Bluetooth modems to be put in the machines. He always knew they had Bluetooth modems. And if you want to see my confronting of him in an actual meeting with our county commissioners, it was just me and him and the county commissioners across from a table, and Merrick Garland and Chris Ray joined in via Zoom. Don't ask me why, I still don't know why. And we confronted him on that. He lied to everybody in this state and made Tina Peters look like a criminal and a fool. 36 Bluetooth modems were found in the Mesa County voting machines. We never would have been able to find them. You know why? Because the clerk that you elected to oversee your elections cannot open those machines. There's a contract between Dominion and your Secretary of State. She's in charge, and she centralized all your elections to her office now. Every election goes to her now. Your clerk really is just a figurehead, unless if they do a paper ballot hand count election. He's still fighting. I mean, that's not ended. And with the Halderman report, so the first tool is Sonny Borrelli's critical infrastructure tool. That needs to be printed out and taken to every clerk. And we have people doing that right now in Colorado. The grassroots is alive and well in this state, and they're doing that as we speak. The second tool, so the resolution, is the Halderman report. Tina, we've already given, certified copies of reports 1, 2, and 3 from our own state, from our own clerk in Mesa County. Those reports, by the way, were created by the likes of Dr. Walter Duarte from Texas Tech University. Absolutely renowned in his space, is one of the most exceptional computer scientists in the country. He was an author on that report. I mean, the brilliance of the people who did those reports hasn't even been discussed, but this is what they found. We've sent those to all the clerks. The second one is the Halderman report. And the Halderman report is for those people who just have a really hard time believing that the machines are vulnerable. He was hired by Democrats to make the report. He's a liberal Democrat from a university, and this is what he does. He checks the vulnerabilities of machines. That's what he does. He writes this amazing report, and Wisconsin federal judge puts it in lockdown for the last 2.5 years. So all these 140 lawsuits that we've been waging, they didn't have the gusto they needed. We needed an unbiased report like the Halderman report, and they knew that. And so they literally kept it under siege, and only just this past week released the Halderman report. So those two tools alone, because they're from unbiased sources. We have Homeland Security saying, this is the executive order, but we have to have people of courage who will implement the order. That's why I tell you, nobody's coming to save you. Devolution, the only way devolution works, do you guys know what that is? It's the idea that all of Trump's executive orders are just waiting to be played out. He wrote tremendous orders. They only work if the people implement them. We are a constitutional republic. This is not a kingdom. There is no king here. It's we the people, and it's our job to enforce what we want. And that's constitutional. That's what we're supposed to be doing. So no one's coming to save us. We've got to be activated on that. Yes, sir.
As far as action plans are concerned, I was born and raised here. I go back as far as you, but I live in Florida now.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys live from DeSantis' plans and move those forward? One thing I think of specifically.
Do we have some tequila?
During the last school board elections down there,
Yeah.
he specifically went out and targeted every one of these woke school board members all over the state and exposed them. Most of them were defeated by bombs because parents didn't know. In Colorado, it's even more important, I think, because of local control. You know, you have all these local school boards that basically govern the curriculum, textbooks, and all of that, unlike Texas and other places
Yeah.
where it's state mandated.
Yeah.
It's much easier for parents to have an impact on the curriculum and
Agreed.
textbooks and everything because of the local control. But where it goes afoul is through the grant process that comes through the strings that the woke people at the state level are now holding over the local school board. And so they can sit there and say, oh, well, I can't do anything because, you know, the money is tied to this or
Yeah.
because we don't have any choice. Well, bullshit, they have choice.
Well, so are you watching what's happening in Woodland Park? So Woodland Park is a town of about 7,000 people here in Colorado Springs, and they gave the money back.
Didn't
And
a
they-
bunch of teachers unions people quit over that?
Oh yeah, probably, because they want to be in line with the teachers union. They want their support. They want their trips. They want their stays at the beautiful, Colorado Springs hotel over there. They get schmoozed. Think about that. I want you to think about this for just a minute.
Did they find teachers?
Oh yeah,
So-
they're good. They're totally good. They've had more
See, that's
teachers
the
applying
part
than ever.
Where we're failing, because I saw every single left-wing idiot tweeting about how nobody wanted to teach there. So that's what
Yeah.
I know, because there's no voice to the other side.
So that's media, right? So where do we get our media from? I partner with Frank's Speech. We have Oreo Express, Brighteon, Getter. I mean, all those different places that we've got to go to. And I personally thought that mainstream media, just them even talking about the story was so interesting, because it's a town of 7,000. And they're saying that the whole future of LGBTQIA rests on this little town of 7,000 people. And I was like, that's a pretty weak straw man right there. If this is what they've built their movement on, and what he meant was comprehensive sex education, okay? Sexualizing kids rests on Woodland Park, whether or not they'll be able to do it. Well, here's the thing. Woodland Park is completely full. They have a wait list of 15% more than they can handle in their school. They gave them money back that required them to do comprehensive sex ed, so they're not doing it at all, which is fine. Every school in Colorado can opt out of that. They just can't accept the money, okay? You just can't take the money, so send it back. It's only like $10,000, not even that much. But then the next thing that they did was they found an alternative curriculum. And the alternative curriculum was for the history portion. So if you're not aware, for graduation standards now, you have to check off LGBTQ history in order to graduate from our schools. So this is the problem. This is what I mean. None of you, I grew up believing that what makes me valuable is what I do and my character. I didn't know that identity politics is what made me valuable. Even my gender as a woman, I just think it's stupid. Okay? What do I do and what is my character? That's what we were supposed to be concerned about. And the left constantly finds every little identity they can to divide, number one, and victimize and make a cause out of. And we've just got to say no. That's not my life. That's not what we're going to do. If you're going to be in the history books, it's by merit. It should be and by the way, they were da 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 da. But if there's no merit there in the first place, that was the point of Woodland Park. If there's merit, fine. But if you're just telling us to throw this in to meet a quota, we're not doing that. That's not right. I don't deserve to be in the history book because I'm a woman. Are you serious? But if that's what we're looking at now, I actually was listening to two of the whistleblowers from the FBI. I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not. The entire FBI administration is based off of equity, and they are demanding 50% men and 50% women. Even though the women have barely been there, it's not a field women even go into. So women come in with no experience, no knowledge, and no reason at all to be moved up administratively, whereas there's been men obviously there forever and ever and ever, working up the ladder, and then this gender equity comes in. So it's happening in every facet they can find to cause chaos, to disrupt, to break apart our institutions, all the things that we've believed in and loved in, that we would stand up for and defend this country for. Think about it. What area has not been touched? They even took baseball.
Well,
They even took baseball.
even happened with the Department of Defense.
Yes.
My best friend is
DOD.
cybersecurity, Department of Defense. The stories he tells me about this crap is unbelievable. So it's penetrated even our national defense.
Well,
Yeah,
school
please.
board, there is a very grassroots
Very.
push for new school board members going in. Campaigns supported, very strategic,
Very.
being applied right now. And they've had great success. And I know most of Western Colorado is very much in that conversation.
Do you want to share what's going on with the Mesa County School Board right now?
Well, I don't know about Mesa County, but I know Eagle County, Garfield County, and Pickens County are all coming together to look at over their school board
Yeah.
election right now.
And start putting
RE2,
together.
which is sort of rifle, still Newcastle. They're pretty solid. We just met. I've been chatting with some of their school board members and their superintendent. But they're just,
Very good.
I'll just say it's very community engaged in what's going on. And maybe I'll have the gentleman that's doing that. He wants to fly underneath the radar right now. That's why I'm not saying more.
It's
But
awesome.
we may
though.
have him come and speak at an appropriate time.
Yeah, you guys will love. You will love what's happening here. But here's an example of what happens when you stand up. This happened in District 11 here in Colorado Springs and District 20. They will go after the school board members who are following through on what they said they were going to do. And there's a lot that needs to happen in Colorado. A lot of buildings should not exist anymore because the kids have pulled their kids, or the parents have pulled their kids out, and so we have no use of these buildings anymore. And then, just all the different options that are coming in. Definitely being more pro-choice in education. Money following the kid sure makes a lot of sense to me.
Pro-choice was a very liberal. The first charter school was one I attended. My dad was on the school board for that, and that was started by George Stranahan. And so Stranahan's whiskey, and now
Oh.
it has been
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so now choice education has become the leftists. They're all anti against choice education.
Yes, which is
Honestly,
so
which
crazy.
weird.
Competition.
You have the money following the kids here in Colorado?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not completely. It's about, they work on about 70, I want to say 70%. We should get Steve Varela, the new state board,
Oh yeah.
on here, because Colorado is also situated in a very unique place where the Educational State Board does not cater to the governor. They actually sit equal with the governor. And they're a very independent organization. They also appoint their commissioner, the person that they tell what to do. And how to implement the
Is that the
schools.
board that I sat on before she ran for governor? Is that the board?
The CU region. No, this would be Joyce Rankin was on the state board.
Steven.
Was on that board.
He paid $1 million. He paid $1 million in what was normally like a $6,000 to $10,000 race to get on that board.
I worked at the Department
Yeah.
of Education.
You did. I can't even imagine.
But regarding the school board, just 3 things to take away from the strategy is: 1, get organized, find somebody to take a place willing to step up a candidate on the school board. 2, make sure that conservative organizations tell people that individual is a conservative. Right now, generally 5 to 10% people will turn out. There's a voter turnout for 5 to 10% for school board elections, simply by conservative groups educating this is a conservative candidate, or however you want to identify them as, that number will increase up to 50 to 60% of voter turnout for the conservative base.
Or you can run as a slate, like they did in Douglas County.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
And the big thing for that candidate is not to talk about the issues, just simply go say hi and get to know the people. Because if they know the name, that they know the person, they will be voted for.
I think so. I think so. The grassroots is so strong here, and these efforts are. It's definitely, things are definitely changing throughout the state. People have had enough, and they're not bringing their kids back to traditional schools unless if there's a huge turnabout.
It's far beyond the partisanship. It's totally
Yes,
nonpartisan.
it really is.
Yeah. Dialogues or issues on this case.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I don't want to take any more of your time. Last question.
I was going to ask about
Yeah.
Tina Peters. Last
Yeah.
year, they gave a talk on her story. I was just curious
Awesome.
what's going on with her relationship. I think it was Griswold had filed lawsuits.
Yeah. Yeah, it is state. Her case is not going to come up until September, and there's nothing in her law. There's nothing in the criminal charges about elections, okay, at all, because nothing she did was illegal. Nothing anybody did was illegal. The whole charging premise is identity theft, and that's for the man that was initially hired to do the forensic images. He ended up not having the skill set to do it. And this is public knowledge. You can find it in the New York Times story. It's a really brilliant piece. I'm amazed they put everything together. The man that came in, and Tina has talked about this publicly, the man that came in, this is like a total, it would be a great novel. The man that actually came in to do the images was a CIA asset at one time. His dad actually was a CIA agent. There's a whole book written about him. He came in to do the forensic images. He's also the one that was responsible for taking down Backpage. And so we could not use his identity. And so the guy that originally was going to do the images but didn't have the skill set said, well, he can use my identity, then that's fine. I'll do whatever I can for my country. Well, there's been a lot that has happened since then. And, it's scary having law enforcement tell you you're going to go to prison. And if you will just do what we're asking you to do, say what we're asking you to say, then you'll be off the hook and there'll be no further federal investigation into you. So unfortunately, that man led his kind of joining up with the FBI, ended up giving like 10 different identity theft charges on Tina. But we will all be testifying in September, and he'll be charged afterwards for lying. He literally, there's no other way around it. He lied. He got afraid. And I guess just my closing word would be, again, don't stop going. Don't get afraid. I feel like if someone approaches you at this point, if law enforcement or the FBI, or if you're on a watch list or your phone is tapped, if you're making waves, if you're having an impact, they are going to be all over you. They don't want us to live in peace anymore. That's not the goal. That's not the plan. We just watched 3 years of hell. We watched what the government has in mind for us, and it is not good. And as soon as they can do it again, they will. So on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, we're actually hosting an event in Aspen. I encourage all of you guys, if you want to come up and join us. We're hosting a counter event to the Aspen Institute's Ideas Fest Health, where they're showcasing Anthony Fauci, Chelsea Clinton, Bakara, right? All of the names, they're all going to be there in that little town. And so we're hosting a counter event, and all of the greats will be there with us. Mickey Willis of Plandemic 3, we're going to be premiering that Thursday night. Ann Vanderstill, Dr. Tom Linkering, one of our local favorites, is going to be speaking as well. All the ones that you've seen out there are going to be speaking in and being a part of the event, and just countering all of the narrative that these globalists have been using to direct our lives, and they're not done. They're not done. Christy Hutcherson, she's a geopolitical activist, is going to give a pretty compelling update on what they're really up to right now and what's been happening. So I encourage you guys, if you have something to do, cancel it and come join us in Aspen. It's going to be beautiful. 5:30 every evening, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We look forward to seeing you guys there. I just do not stop doing what you're doing. Don't let anybody tell you that it doesn't matter, number one, that you can't do anything about it, that it's too big for you. If there's anything I've learned, one person with a very big mouth can make a very big impact. And so Val can be your mouth. And you all all be the worker bees and get the work done. I appreciate you guys very much, and thank you for letting me be with you guys tonight.